So let me give a definition of what I mean when I talk about overstimulation. Because, you know, being a man in this space, I'm not somebody who's on some shit like, oh yeah, if she had more than 5, 10, 15 bodies, she's no good. She's damaged goods. I don't believe that. But what I will say is this, like, overstimulation is something that can happen to both men and women. You get what I'm saying? It's not something that is impossible. It's something that happens to a lot of people in this day and age. And much of the time, what I would consider overstimulation is when you grow accustomed to experiences that are either dominant or submissive, right? That you either would not like to have or would be unable or unwilling to integrate into an actual, the relationship dynamic that you want to live. You get what I'm saying? So I'm going to run that back. So being overstimulated is when you grow accustomed to either dominant, submissive, masculine, or feminine traits and energy within yourself or in your experiences that you would be unable or unwilling to integrate into the type of relationship that you either can get or want to get into the future, right? You can have experiences that are outliers, but if those things greatly affect you to the point where they become the new standard, then once something becomes a new standard for you, that changes the style of relationship that you would need to have in order to be satisfied, right? Or it changes what you would require from someone to be satisfied. And if you're a person who isn't desirable enough to get that type of thing on a consistent basis, or if you're a person who wants those type of things in a transactional way, but you don't have the resources to be transactional with whatever that is, then you're going to put yourself into a circumstance that will cause you to become duplicitous, right? Overstimulation is what leads to duplicity. So like, let's say as a man, you experience a certain level of being masculine and dominant with the women that you deal with, right? Let's say that's what you experience. But in your experiences doing that, let's say that you have a Madonna-whore complex and you view a woman who makes you wait for sex or makes you work for sex as a more valuable woman, or a woman who has very, very, very limited sexual experience before you as a very, as a valuable woman because she limits her sexual experiences. So what can happen is you'll view a woman who has sex with you on date one as not valuable, while a woman who makes you wait is more valuable. But that woman who makes you wait, there's no guarantee that she did that for everybody who she's ever met, right? You don't know what her history was before you. That's why I say it's best not to worry too much about things that you can't control or things before you, unless you're in a situation where you're not very judgmental, you're not overly invested yet, and you can have those conversations in a way to where there's a certain level of honesty and transparency there. You get what I'm saying? So if you have those very dominant experiences, right, where let's say you're a man, you're dealing with a random woman, this random woman is already sexually opened up, or she has an unusually high level of sexual attraction for you, right, compared to the rest of your experiences. But within those experiences, like let's say you had sex with 5 women, one woman could have multiple orgasms from penetration alone. But all of the other women that you had sex with, maybe 3 of them could come from head, and then one of them probably couldn't have any orgasms at all. That's not my experience. But if that's your experience, if you allow that to have too much of an emotional effect, of too much of an ego stimulating effect on you, the experience that you have with that one woman, without changing the way you move, changing the abilities that you have, and improving your sex game to make that experience more consistent within your long-term relationships, then you're constantly going to be looking back at your previous experiences, and you're going to be constantly looking at those previous experiences and then judging the women that you deal with for them not being able to experience you in the same way, right? And the only way you can avoid doing that is by looking at the women that you're dealing with as good, because they're not very sexual, and the women as of the past as if they are whores, right? And if you feel that way about those particular type of women, then you're going to sexually stunt the growth and sexually stunt the honesty of the woman who's in your life, because she may have had those experiences with someone else if you're honest with her, if she's really open with you. And then also she may have a capacity for those experiences that you could unlock, but you would have to be able to get past that social mask to have those experiences. So that will cause you to be duplicitous, where you're only going to be able to deal with her in a particular way for a particular amount of time, but then you're going to have to outsource sexually to get your needs met. Another way a man can be overstimulated is, let's say, maybe you were feminine and submissive with the woman. Maybe you waited for sex or something like that, or you were masculine submissive and you were dealing with the woman and you waited a long time for sex. And because you waited a long time, you put the pussy up on a pedestal, right? And when you put the pussy up on a pedestal, when you got it, you was busting all over the place, right? But guess what? Are you going to want to deal with the woman who's going to make you wait for the pussy all the time so that it can build up your desire for it, and then she's going to be in control of it, and then she's not going to be submissive with you, and then have to deal with the fact that she may be submissive with someone else, hurting your ego, right? If it's not something that's sustainable to the way that you would like to deal with the woman in a long-term relationship, I don't think it's really the best. Like, if you're a man who would be cool with being in, like, if you just want to do a one-off, two-off, something every now and in the blue moon, maybe that whole threesome thing can work for you. But what you got to understand is this: if you are dealing with an experience where you deal with like two women at one time, like in a threesome type of scenario, and that is like, it blows your mind, best experience ever, right? If your cup gets low, you're going to want to have that experience again. So if you're dealing with a woman who's not comfortable with doing that type of thing, then now you're going to be unsatisfied eventually within your relationship, because you are neglecting certain desires that you have in order to meet up to the standards of that woman. And then it's going to put you in somewhat of a submissive position, with her being in control of certain aspects of the relationship, even though it's just her boundaries. Now, one thing I always say about boundaries is that boundaries are not static. Boundaries are not consistent across the board. So something a woman will do with one man, she won't do with another man. And you don't want to deal with the woman who has a gentleman-gigolo complex, to where because you love her and because she loves you and because you have a relationship, that's the reason why she doesn't want to do things with you in a certain way sexually. I remember I had a conversation with a woman one time who said, you know, she would probably think about having a threesome, but she wouldn't want to have a threesome with a man who she actually loved, right? Now, if that same man wanted to have a threesome, and he found out that she did that with someone else, do that with the wrong guy and him find out about it, either he just gonna leave you, and some dudes gonna get in their feelings and they gonna start acting real feminine and emotional. You're gonna lose respect for them. And then other men might beat your ass. I'm just being honest with you. We gotta be honest about how relationships work. You can't expect every single person you encounter to have good sense. That's one reason why I say, don't be trying to give women the A-game dick the first time you fucking with her. Don't do it. It's not a good decision. Especially if your dick is good. You might deal with some bullshit. I'm just keeping it a buck with you, right? So overstimulation can work in a variety of ways. You can either be overstimulated in, let's say you're overstimulated in how emotional you were about a woman because how hard you had to work to get her, right? So you had to work so hard to get her, or you were so attracted to the woman because you overvalued how beautiful she was in her appearance instead of who she was on the inside, instead of how she treats you. And because you overvalued that, you're overstimulated as far as your feminine energy. So you can meet a woman who's attractive enough, right? She's beautiful, right? She treats you well. She's feminine. She's submissive. She's on your program. But because she's not quite as bad as that other woman, right? And I'm not saying don't have standards. Have standards. But why set your standards at the pinnacle of human nature unless that is what your experience is, consistently getting all of the things you want in a relationship with a person who's that attractive? Unless that's your general experience, then sometimes you may be looking a gift horse in the mouth. Now, I'm just telling you some real shit. You know, nitpicking over little shit that's not that important. Yeah, she might have a little stretch marks. Shit, listen, that's the cinnamon sugar swirls in every bite. You know, yeah, she might have a little tummy on her, right? If you just don't like that, you don't like that. Cool, I understand. But if she still got some shape to her, that ass soft, She got some nice lips. Especially she got like some natural hair, some pretty toes, shit like that. You know, that's what I like. I like black woman. Natural black woman. That's what I like. But if that's what she got, nigga, why are you tripping? She is beautiful. You are feminine. And you're always going to be chasing after a challenge, because after you get it, then you're overstimulated with the thrill to chase. So a woman who makes it easy for you, you're not going to be, you know, you're not going to be interested in her. You're not going to put that work in. You're not going to treat her equivalent to the value that she adds to your life, because you think the value that a woman adds to your life is being attractive. Overstimulation is a real thing. Dudes need to understand this. You see, overstimulation is a big reason why I don't really advocate for prostitution, right? I mean, I think that prostitution should be legal, but the reason why I don't believe in paying for sex, right, is because I believe that as a man, the women that you should deal with should be women who are attracted enough to you to where they're going to enjoy the sex that you're having. They need to be women who are attracted enough to you to where, at the very least, sex is an equivalent exchange. Watch my video on Brody's scale of sexual attraction. At the very least, it's an equivalent exchange. But really, that's not enough either. You want it to be on like a 9 level so you can really integrate. You get what I'm saying? At least, like, if it was on a 9 level, then you can really integrate. But on an 8 level, at least it's an equivalent exchange. So it's like, all right, you good, right? But sometimes dudes will be dealing with women who have a 5 level of sexual attraction to them. They got to pay for it, right? Or a 6 level of sexual attraction. They gotta really work for that shit, and then wonder why they don't feel the same way about a woman who doesn't make them do that, or wonder why that woman is so attractive, for her pussy is so good, or she is so this, she is so that, when he put it up on a pedestal, right? He put it up on such a pedestal that now the sexual things that woman has done, like let's say she may be a working girl, right? And you pay that money for her to do certain things for you sexually, right? That you can't find anybody else to do. Or she looks a way that you can't attract a woman who looks that way, right? Or her coochie is good in a way that you can't find a woman whose coochie is good. Yeah, this is an even bigger one. She's faking orgasms in ways that women who are honest with you won't fake it. So now she's attractive, and then she's also boosting up your ego, making you think that you're the shit. So when you will come across a woman who's treating you according to how good your dick actually is and how attractive you actually are, now you're unsatisfied. Dudes need to stop with this goofy shit. And then you want that woman to love you, right? Or you want a woman who's going to love you and be honest with you and communicate with you, who's going to see you the same way, but you don't want it to be about money then, right? Because it's love. You're goofy as fuck. I'm telling you right now. Like, overstimulation is a concept, and it's a conversation that we need to have about sexuality in this day and age. And a man can also, like I said, he can be overstimulated with dominance. He can be overstimulated with submissiveness, within his own energy. Another thing is this. Some guys, they wonder why, listen, if you're bisexual, I do not judge you. I'm not one of these people who says that bisexuality in men does not exist. My favorite artist is Frank Ocean. Like, my favorite artist is Frank Ocean. I love Tyler, the Creator. Like, I love Steve Lacy. Androgyny in music is great, because when somebody can mix that emotion with the logical perspective of being able to hone that into songwriting, that shit is awesome, right? And I'm not saying that just like on some, ooh, look, I'm not homophobic. But what I am saying is this. I got to keep it a buck with you. Being penetrated is a vulnerable position. The same reason that men don't like women with high body counts, most don't, is the same reason that most women do not want a man who's having sex with men, right? Now, there are definitely some women who are down with that. And if you are a bisexual man, you want a straight woman, you can be down with that, right? You can find a woman who's down for what you're down for. But what you got to understand is this. You got to be honest. It causes you to be duplicitous when you have to hide who you are to try to get a woman, right? When you have to hide how you move, what you really like to get a woman, then if she finds out the truth later on, she's not going to like that, bro. She's not. So what you got to understand about that shit is this, right? If you get overstimulated as far as being submissive, like getting penetrated and shit like that, then it's going to hone down, it's going to narrow down what some of your options will be. Just like for a woman, I may be the type of man who doesn't really mind if a woman has been with a certain amount of dudes, but that's because I know my prowess. But at the same time, it's also because I'm not just going to jump into a relationship with her. So I'm not judging her based off of her past. I'm judging her based off of her present. How the fuck does she treat me? Right? That's different. I'm judging her based off of how she gets on my program. Maybe back in the day, back in the old days, niggas would date women. They would take them out they would court them before sex. But those would be women who were virgins, if not very close to virgins, probably never had an orgasm in a lifetime. So they weren't sexually overstimulated to where you would be a trick to be taking them out. You would just be getting to know them, courting them, vetting them to see if that's the type of woman you want to deal with. And I'm not saying that model of dating is all the way wrong. But what I'm saying is that in this day and age, women are too overstimulated to be trying to date them that way. These are not traditional women, right? These are modern women. And I like modern women to a certain extent, right? I like that about them because I'm not trying to wait or work or pay for the pussy myself. So shit, hey, be a modern woman. And that doesn't even mean that I'm going to exclude her from being my future wife or my future girlfriend. That don't even mean that, right? Because my thing is this, you got to be my hoe before you can be my housewife. You got to be my bitch first. So if you're overly concerned with wanting a man to be respectful to you and you feel that way about me, I'm just going to assume that that's just how you feel about me. Because I already know that there are women out here who are duplicitous, who have a gentleman-gigolo complex, and the way that they'll allow one man to treat them because of their attraction and their respect and their desire for his validation, they're not going to allow the next man to treat them that way if they view him more as relationship material in the full package up front. See, I understand that already, right? So niggas really need to start understanding what overstimulation is. Overstimulation is something that ruins people's ability to be in successful long-term relationships, right? Now listen, I've been a nigga with a rotation that's, I think a rotation is a good way to move. But if you have a rotation, you need to have a rotation with a dominant sexual ego, right? Which means you're the primary giver of pleasure, primary receiver of control. Now, that doesn't mean that you're the primary giver of sex acts, but that just means that you're the primary giver of pleasure. She's going to be more in her emotions. She's going to be more in her feelings. She's going to be more losing control and getting lost in the sauce, lost in the moment. If you're going to have a rotation, don't be overly focused on how good the pussy is and trying to put that on a pedestal as a big determining factor of who you're going to date. Don't do that. Fuck with those women. Get your little ego boosted. You know what I mean? Learn how to please a woman and satisfy a woman sexually well enough to where she doesn't require a relationship from you, so that if a woman wants a relationship, then you can set your standards. You can't set your standards for a relationship with a woman who isn't sexually satisfied with you, because she sees the pussy as what she's giving you in order to get a relationship. Understand this. This is very pertinent information. Very pertinent information. So when I talk about the biology first approach, when I talk about having a rotation, when I'm talking about running game, I'm not talking about lying to women. And I'm also not talking about just being a pleasure seeker. Like being a pleasure seeker is something that will ruin you as a man. Understand that. Understand that. When I talk about having a rotation, I'm talking about developing skills. I'm talking about developing emotional discipline. I'm talking about knowing that you can get a very attractive woman to be feminine and submissive with you, right? To get on your program, develop your sexual skills, develop your emotional discipline, develop your discipline, right? So that you actually know how to fucking lead if you weren't just born and raised to be able to lead in that particular way, so that you're more adapted and you're more ready to deal with women in this modern climate. Protect yourself. Don't be trying to nut up in all these bitches. Don't be trying to do all that, man. Protect yourself. Protect your seed. Protect your seed with your life. Shout out to the Drake with the hot sauce and the condom. That's beautiful, nigga. It is. But dudes need to learn. It's not about pleasure seeking. It's not. Yes, pleasure is a part of it. Yes, sex feels good. Getting your dick sucked feels good, right? But what you got to learn is not to try to find the woman who has the best pussy. You got to find women, right, who are willing to listen and learn and then learn how to teach anything sexually that you like, anything sexually that you enjoy, right? For some good ass head, right? You like a woman who having, orgasms, all that different type of shit. If those are things that boost your ego or things that feel good to you, anything that you like, learn how to teach it to a woman. Don't expect anything from a woman that you can't teach her, because you're making unrealistic expectations and setting yourself up for failure. I just be trying to talk real to niggas. Because a lot of times people don't talk real. People be leaving certain things out of the discussion, certain things out of the conversation, right? But I'm talking about being sexually integrated. Sometimes before you can integrate, like I say, people talk about how pill this, pill that shit's bad. I'm like, nah, if you're blue pilled, right? If you've never been blue pilled, you don't need a red pill, right? Because you grew up with the blue pill. I mean, you grew up red pill. You grew up being exposed to and understanding female sexual nature firsthand. If that's how you grew up, right? If that's how you grew up, you don't need the red pill because you already know. But that's like being a nigga who's naturally gifted with genetics, telling somebody that if they want to be ripped and built like you, they got to do these particular exercises. Nigga, I can do that shit all day. That don't mean I'm going to be looking like you, because you was looking like you before you did that shit yourself. You get what I'm saying? Or at least the natural genetics and the foundation was already laid there. Maybe the way you grew up, smaller muscle groups was there. You know what I mean? Maybe your daddy buff, your granddaddy buff, that nigga 60, 70 years old, that nigga still goddamn near got a six-pack. And then you want to tell people, nah, you ain't got to do this. Just do these exercises right here. Some of these niggas is lying. Some of these niggas is on steroids in the game, right? Like some of these dudes be lying to women about their sexual, about their intentions. Some of these dudes be paying women for sex. Some of these dudes be doing a whole bunch. Some of these dudes be doing a bunch of goofy shit that's feminine, right? In order to have sex with women, and then trying to tell you that it's their game when it's not their game. They paid for that, right? They manipulate. They lied to that woman to have sex with her. They weren't upfront about their intentions. So even if somebody tries to validate their experiences, sometimes, some people are genuine, but some people are not. Understand what I'm saying? I'm just trying to give y'all niggas some real game. Like, what you got to understand is either you're going to have to detox, right? Or you're going to have to switch over, or you're going to have to do something with your mindset to get to a place where you can handle certain things. Because you're probably, if you get overstimulated to a certain point, then you're going to be unable to be in a monogamous relationship happily without resentment. You get what I'm saying? That's something you got to understand. So like, let's say you working on your rotation, you're used to having 5, 6, 7 women in your rotation, maybe 8, 9, 10 women in your rotation. One, you're probably greedy, right? And I'm gonna tell you why. If you got that many women in your rotation, that's not really something that's integratable. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because one, are you meeting the full sex drives of those women? And if you are, could any of those women meet up to your full sex drive? If the answer is no, then none of that shit is integratable. Unless you are willing and ready and open to be in an open relationship. That's why I always talk about, I think it's best to have a rotation of 2 to 3 women. There's been times where I had rotations of 5 to 7 women. But one thing you know for a fact, and this can happen even if you're dealing with one woman, but I'm just talking about mitigating, right? I'm not talking about guarantees. I'm talking about mitigation. You can have 2 to 3 women, right? Start with one woman, right? Or maybe start with 1 or 2 women. Meet their full sex drive before you go on to the next woman, right? Sometimes you can do it like this. You could deal with that woman on a consistent basis to where she's at a point where she can just fuck with you. You're honest with her about how you move, and then you can add another woman into the mix, right? Eventually, when a woman gets feminine and submissive with you, when a woman's truly feminine and submissive with you, oftentimes she don't want no other dick inside of her. It turns her off. Not always, but sometimes. Right? Because that woman wants to be able to be on call to fuck with daddy when daddy calls. So at the very least, if she's about to go see a nigga, she'll cancel on him so she can come see you. You get what I'm saying? So these are just some things to think about. You know, you want your rotation to be close enough to being able to meet the full sex drive of those women that you're dealing with as possible. And if not, then you're just pleasure seeking. You're just fucking around to fuck around, or you're dealing with women who aren't feminine and submissive enough to be there when you need them to be there. So you got to have a big rotation of women, because the women that you're dealing with aren't fucking with you enough to be consistent. You get what I'm saying? You know, right now I just got to talk to niggas a little bit tough. I ain't being too mean with niggas right now, but I'm just letting y'all know that these are some real conversations that we need to have. And I ain't forget about the women. I did not forget about the women. Women, after you deal with a real nigga, you can't go back to no soft ass dude. You can't. You can try. But after you experience being fully feminine and submissive with a man, you can't really go back to being masculine and submissive with a dude who can't even satisfy you sexually. You can't do it. You're going to resent him. No matter how much he tries to spend money on you, no matter how much he tries to pay for shit, no matter how much he tries to love you, no matter how much attention and validation and time and energy he gives you, if you don't respect that man, you don't sexually desire that man, you can't be submissive with him. And the fact that he wants you to lead is going to make you not respect that man. The fact that his dick is not good is going to make you not desire that man. And when you're in that particular situation, it's going to be fucked up for you. You got to get to the point where you're secure enough to deal with the man who's honest about his sexual intentions. If not, then you're just going to deal with a dude who's going to be feminine dominant, a fuckboy. He's going to lie to you about his intentions, manipulate you, fuck the shit out of you, and then play with your feelings. And then you're going to have to shut your feelings off to deal with him, right? You're going to have to become a no-limit soldier so that you can fuck with multiple dudes at the same time to keep your feelings from getting involved. And you're going to waste years of your life being a slut bucket. And listen, I don't judge women for their body counts. This is different, right? I don't like to call women hoes. My perspective is this. There's a difference between being a woman who is sexually open in a way that is integratable into the lifestyle that she wants to live, right? There's a difference between that and a woman who is just going through a hoe phase, right? And a lot of people have hoe phases. It's understandable, right? But what you have to understand is there are certain years of your life that are going to be best optimized to find the best man that you can deal with. And if you're spending that time treating every dude you have sex with like a fuckboy and not seeing if he has a capacity to lead, not seeing if he has a capacity to give you good dick and guidance, then you're going to be throwing away a lot of situations where a man could be good to you, right? You're going to be throwing away a lot of opportunities being hard-headed, being reacting, and coming at the situation from a point of view where you want to be in control because you want some independent woman shit. Listen, when your damn biological clock starts ticking, that shit's gonna go out the window. You're gonna get desperate, and nobody gonna want to fuck with your goofy ass. Yeah, there's gonna be some simps who want to fuck with you, but most dudes who care about themselves, who love themselves, who have self-worth, who have sexual confidence, who have options, they're not gonna put up with your shit. Now, there are some women who did know better and then they learn better, and you can be in that position, but guess what? When you're in that position, chances are you're not going to find a dude who's a good person with good dick and who got his shit together. You might find a good person with some good dick and be feminine submissive with him, but you got to understand that you partially going to play the role of a sponsor. So if you're going to spend all that time just working on your career and fucking niggas, then you got to understand you're going to have to get a dude with some real good dick, right? And then you're going to have to find you a sponsor. So if you got that money and you trying to deal with a dude who's not really you want to deal with a guy who got some good dick and is a good person, chances are he already got somebody, or he's young and he ain't got all his shit together yet, but he may have a plan. You might have to help sponsor and move that nigga forward in his life, right? And you might get replaced later. Be there for a good time, not a long time, right? You got to accept that. So what you got to understand is with life, you can be overstimulated with a variety of things. You can be overstimulated with how much money a man wants to spend on you, right? Or how much validation a man wants to give you, right? If you're dealing with a dude who's masculine, submissive, or you're dealing with a dude who's feminine and dominant, right? If you're dealing with a guy who's trying to trade love for sex with you, and then you want to think that that love that he's giving you is real when he's doing it because he wants to fuck you, and then you meet a man who's masculine and dominant and not trying to quote unquote know your worth, you're going to fuck yourself up. I'm keeping it a buck with you. You need to understand that. You're making life hard for yourself, right? If you go out here chasing dragons, guess what? If you become a size queen, right? And there's a process to how that happens. There's a process to how that happens, right? I'm on the larger side. I'm somebody who, I don't have an issue with telling a woman, listen, if you don't see yourself possibly ever being able to be with a nigga, if his dick is too big, don't fuck him, right? Because one, either he gonna hurt you and you're not gonna like it, or you're gonna get overstimulated, and that might become the new standard of what it's gonna take to please you. And understand that there are percentages when it comes to dick size. And oftentimes, you know, something I've realized, because I've been in a lot of forums and stuff, and a lot of forums, dudes who are down for poly situations tend to be guys on the larger side, right? Tend to be guys on the larger side. So chances are, you want to find a dude who's real big. He might be big for nothing, right? Or he might be a dude who's big for something, but he gonna run your pockets, right? He gonna do something, right? And or you're gonna be religious. There's gonna be something going on in that particular situation to where if you don't understand what's going on, you may get overstimulated, and then the percentages of men who you can be adequately satisfied by through penetration, not make yourself come, but him make you come, right? Him make you come hard as fuck, that, you know, it's gonna get lower. I mean, it's gonna get higher and higher. The percentages are gonna get lower of the amount of guys who you can feel truly and fully satisfied by sexually. So it's not about the body count, right? It's not about the body count. It's about the quality, not the quantity. So if you get overstimulated with the quality of sex that you having, and it's with guys who you can never end up in a relationship with, then you're gonna set yourself up to have to be sexually duplicitous, or to be transactional. And if you're transactional, chances are in this day and age, there's so much stimulation that you're going to end up being duplicitous. Eventually, you have to protect your preferences and know what type of relationship that you want to have one day. And try to avoid putting yourself in situations where you get overstimulated, whether it's in the dominant aspect of your ego or the submissive aspect of your ego, in a way to where it's going to make it difficult for you to be satisfied, especially if you're the type of person who wants to be in a monogamous relationship or marriage one day, right? You have to limit that. You have to limit that. You have to make sure that you're not overstimulating yourself. Like, overstimulation can happen to a man as well, right? What makes a woman damaged goods isn't necessarily just having a kid. What makes a woman damaged goods isn't necessarily her having been in an abusive relationship in the past. What makes a woman damaged goods, sometimes that could do it a little bit, but most people have been in some type of abusive situation in some capacity. It doesn't affect everyone the same. What really makes a woman damaged goods is when pain mixes with pleasure in a way to where the man that she is actually able to be in a relationship with can't meet up to those standards. So now, subconsciously, she feels like she's settling. Right? Once a woman experiences a certain level of pleasure and domination from a man that she enjoys, she desires, she lusts, it makes it so that the threshold of how much of that she'll have to experience to be sexually submissive with the man is going to be higher, right? There are percentages. Like let's say it's even about the dick size thing. There are percentages of men. Most men are going to be around 5.2, 5.5 inches, right? Then you got guys who will be on the larger side. You know what I mean? There's going to be guys, 6.5, 7, cool, 7.5, cool, right? You got 8, 9. And as you keep going up larger and larger in size, either you're going to hit your ceiling and say, I can't take that, so I'm good, right? Or you're going to get opened the fuck up. You're going to get broken in. And once you get broken in, your standards of what you're going to need to be satisfied sexually or even to be cooperative with the man is going to go up. Right? And if your attractiveness, if your desirability, right? If how kind you are, if how available you are is lower, right? if how difficult you are to deal with is lower, while how much you require to be satisfied is higher, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. Right? You know, it's just some real shit. This is just the stuff that I try to let guys know, stuff I try to let women know, right? Because if you understand this, then you can put yourself in a scenario to where you can avoid feeling like you're settling. You can avoid feeling resentment in relationships. You can avoid certain things. For some of y'all, it might be a little bit too late already. You might have to take a little step back, go celibate for a while. You might have to, just decide, you know what? Hey, this dude's on the bigger side. You know what? He satisfies me. He treats me well. So you know what? I'm cool with him having other women because at least he takes care of me, right? At least when I link up with him, we have a good time. And to the extent of my sex drive, he meets my needs. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you take that mentality with it, you're going to have to open up your mentality to the extent that you're experiencing pleasure that you can't find other places. But if you want a man who can make you feel the way them other niggas made you feel, but you want him to be all about you on day one, you goofy as fuck. It's not going to happen. I mean, good luck. You might get lucky. But do you really want to live your life based on luck? Right? Is that really what you want to do? What value are you bringing to him that makes you worthy of him putting you on such a high pedestal? Is it just that you're beautiful, your vibe? A lot of women beautiful. A lot of women got a vibe. And he probably already fucking some. What value are you adding to his life to be put on the pedestal that you want to be put on? Because you know your worth? That's bullshit. To a man who's masculine and dominant, you have no worth outside of the value that you add to his life. Just like how you feel about how you think you feel about men until you meet a man who you're actually attracted to. Until you meet a man who you actually respect. So you get overstimulated in your masculine dominance, and then you want a masculine dominant man, not understanding that y'all two gonna butt heads. And a man who's masculine is not attracted to a challenge, right? A man who's masculine is not attracted to a challenge. A man who's masculine sees a woman trying to fuck with her. Either she fuck with him or he don't. Either she fuck with him or she don't. And if she don't, he moves on. So all you goofy ass women talking about, well, I'll submit if he's masculine enough, if he leads properly, if he does this, and then you have your own masculine idea within yourself of what that's supposed to look like and what that means. So when you meet the dude, you try to test the dude, and then the dude just stop texting you back. Or he ghosts you. Because you want to be goofy as fuck. He tell you to do something, you don't listen. Right? Or you listen and then you try to make him reciprocate you in a way that shows that you think that the things that you do for him are something that it's an equivalent exchange. Right? Or that shows that you want to get more out of it. Like you have sex with a dude and you ask him for some money. Or you do some goofy shit like that. Or you go out on a date with a dude. He's like, you're not trying to just play me, are you? Or you repeatedly asking him if he has a girlfriend or a wife or something like that. Repeatedly. After the nigga said no the first fucking time, why you keep asking? If he lied the first time, why would he tell the truth? Because you asked again. You get what I'm saying? Just worry about how that nigga treats you when he with you. So yeah, I want to get on my soapbox today. I want to talk some shit. Because a lot of people, they're looking at this stuff from a weird perspective. And they don't understand what overstimulation is. They don't understand that they need to protect their preferences so that they don't put themselves in a scenario to where the type of relationship model that they would like to have, they can't have. And I'm going to say something to the feminine submissive men, right? Understand this. Feminine and submissive men. If you're feminine and submissive with a woman, understand she's probably either going to cheat on you or she's going to peg you. It got quiet just now, didn't it? No matter what style you are in, you have to compete. Right? If you're masculine submissive, you have to compete with how much money you have. Looks, money, status. This masculine submissive. There's not really masculine and dominant. It's masculine submissive. This looks, money, status, right? If you're feminine dominant, you have to compete with how manipulative you are. With how good your lies are. You have to compete with that emotional roller coaster brought about through your gaslighting and your manipulation. So that means if another man can manipulate that woman better, she up out of there. Right? If you're feminine submissive, you're competing on a basis of how emotional you are, how bending, how yielding you are to the individual to where you follow their lead, and you're competing on how much pleasure you get from them sexually and how sexually open and willing you are to do what the fuck they want to do. And then you can integrate a little bit of taking initiative, listening to what they say, and then taking an initiative to show that you listen, you understand, by trying to pick up their mindset, their wisdom, their understanding, and to push that forward with them to get on a program. See, your ability to get on somebody's program is how you're competing when you're feminine and submissive. And when you're masculine and dominant, you're competing with your good dick and your guidance. Right? When you understand that these are the different areas, there's no way of avoiding competition. And in all of these routes, how attractive you are is still going to be a factor. So just protect your preferences and avoid overstimulation. Understand what it is. It's Brody. I'm out.